Hello, Renuka. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very
I'm,
much.
I'm Dr. Nadia Rais, and nice to talk with you. My question is that uh, what is the benefit of this calculator in our Sindh?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I know that Pakistan is not like we have to worry about carbon emissions. Okay. So it is
Yeah.
not, the carbon calculator is not for only to measure the carbon emissions, but also to understand that where we can sequester and so store more carbon, or like because we are looking for the development in Pakistan going forward, we are going to emit carbon emissions. Especially, we are trying to change the behavior for best practices. So it is something like a measurement. If you know that you have a 3 meter cloth, then you can understand what you want to make. But if you don't know how long your cloth is, you will not be able to understand, isn't it? You would see, okay, let me try this, let me try this, and the trial and error method can go wrong. So it is always good to have a measurement. So that is one part only, but also to understand that which are the best practices that can be low carbon, but also help us to store carbon and in our development, so that we can understand, okay, where is the best practice lying, and we can continue with that. Especially for Pakistan, it is very important because we have seen in these few years that agriculture and farming industry has uh, a great impact due to not knowing what is actual practices, especially in relation to how to address climate change and become more resilient to these adverse impacts. So that is where we are coming. We are not only want to just do this calculator, but also this calculator will allow us to collect plenty of data, which would allow us to understand what is the type of soil, what are the type of trees are helping us, what type of water management we should have in different regions, and so on. So what type of energy management we should have. There are plenty of things that would come out of this. And that is where I think we have to
Okay.
be very open-minded and look at it as a holistic tool to address our climate change and be prepared for future Pakistan. Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Renuka.
Yes.
I'm Dr. Nura Madinahu from Sindh Environmental Protection Agency, Government of Sindh.
Okay, thank you.
Uh, I have seen your recorded video. In this, I saw that you have presented that you will develop a sustainable ecosystem at local level.
Yes.
So I want to know that how sustainable ecosystem will be developed at local level, especially in Sindh and at Pakistan. Have you worked on it?
This is the start of the conversation. So we are inviting you to become our partner and guide us. We haven't developed full program because we want it to be flexible and adaptable to the local people. So this is the first introduction. I think plenty of things have already been done by Naseer, but this is a first introduction to the community that this can happen and this is your tool and you should work towards it. So we want you all to tell us how we can take this. This is a big concept, big idea, and we want each one of you to be part of it. Because when you use this tool, someone like a smallest farmer will be also part of this tool. So we want to understand how we want to do it. It is about all the farmers, but also farmer association, government level, non-government level, all should come together. And so we want to be a very collaborative, very adaptive and flexible as well, because plenty of different people will require different types of methods or communication methods, also engagement methods, and so on. And so it is, I am here in UK and I have never met Naseer. I never travel much, but I feel that this is a very big program, and everyone at a local level. I know that there are plenty of things already been done in Pakistan. That's why we are able to say that it is highly, vulnerable for climate change. So that means we have done some research, and we also have some tools, knowledge. We have also the, ambition to become climate proof, or maybe say future ready for all sustainable practices. But I also want to, like, I can have a separate meeting with each you, or we can have a collaborative meeting, roundtables, or small surveys, and these are the tools that can help us to formulate. So this is 1 year we want to use it as a pilot, first to understand how much data is already available, or where we need to focus, and so on. And then by 3 months time or something, we want to also collect some data to analyze it and see what is happening, where the data is correct, or is there anything else we need. Because I am connected to the rest of the world and many other experts, and I can bring them on board. So that is how we want to, and we are doing this voluntary. We are not asking for money, and especially we do not want to ask money from the small farmers at all. That is our main intention, that they should be supported by this big ecosystem. And these are my views. You can tell me more, and you can also critique that where I'm wrong, and you can correct me. So this is where we want to start the constructive dialogue for the Pakistan and Sindh, as you mentioned.
Okay, thank you very much for your good answer. In the future, hope that you will contact with us as a department in the Environmental Protection Agency, and we will collaborate with you in this sustainable goal for your project. Thank you very much.
Wonderful, wonderful. I will leave that contact with Naseer, and he will be our, what do you say, coordinator for us. And we will also, but he lives in Canada, I live in UK, but we will also like one from your side, to be a coordinator, be a part of our team. And so we can coordinate more and frequently as we move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Very glad to hear you about today's session. So I have some little bit questions about the today topic. As your perspective, we know that our food system is facing a significant challenges such as food insecurity, climate change, and soil dehydration. How we can enroll as a student in your global sustainable future? How we can participate?
Yes, that is a very wonderful question, because we want young people to understand what is agriculture or food system or all that. But also you have a capacity of just like digital literacy, and farmers may not have that. Farmers may not understand, and you can speak their language, you can help them in collecting data. So probably now onwards, for your all master's course or undergraduate dissertation, you should take a research project such that combines the real world problem. And so you can collect the data for us, that is for farmers. You can go there and collect, help them to understand. And if you have problem, you can take the support of your supervisors or experts. And so you will be a big part of this consortium, that where you will be the actual person collecting the data. Likewise, you will also understand you will get the skills of these all digital as well as agriculture, and also about climate change and future. So this will be a win-win situation. And generally what happens, students do dissertation out of their own mind, like thinking of what is their interest and so on. Here we are asking you to do a real problem, like solve the real problem. And that could be beneficial to you, beneficial to farmers, beneficial to university and everyone. So that is where we want to go.
So as your perspective, we all students to work as a bridge.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
because I understand any one of, if you look at your relatives or your family, you will find one or two farmers in your relative and family, I'm sure. So you can work with them. You don't need to go far. So everything is just within our reach. It is only the efforts we have to make to bring everyone together.
This is Dr. Aslam Bukero, Associate Professor from the Department of Entomology. I have some questions, queries about the carbon calculator. That
Yes,
how can we measure this carbon present? And is it a device or we can manually can measure and something else? And what impact of this carbon calculator on the environment? So please.
Yes, wonderful. The impact of these carbon calculator will be more explained by Liz, who is the owner, CEO of Farm Carbon Calculator in UK. Now, what we have done here, the Farm Carbon Calculator UK has produced this web page and all that, but they have an Excel which you can download on your computer or your mobile, and you can input all the data offline. So that is very interesting to us, because we are challenged by sometimes the real data, like internet and so on. So you can download that and you can keep a copy, and we can also do more workshops that is also online we can do for the students to understand how to collect that data, what units are needed, what type of data is correct, and so on. And that can be also then transferred to the farmers themselves also, who are literate and who can do that job, can do that from their own computer and so on. And so we will be able to collect the data. And that is very simple. It is just an Excel-based exercise. The only difference we have between UK and Pakistan, that we will have to use Pakistan carbon emission factors. And they are also known to Pakistan experts. So we will bring them in and we will just adjust, and that is called co-design, especially bespoke design, the carbon calculator for Pakistan. So that is what we want to do. Thank you.
Hello, ma'am. Assalamu alaikum. I am Hurmat Kaka, and I am recently graduate from Sindh Agriculture University and Department of DVM. My question is how we research in this field and how we get the scholarship through our related to field.
That is very big question, because we haven't still explored all these things. But first thing, we want something to be done on ground so that we can show the funders and other people that this is the possibility and we can bring the funding. So funding is the next step. But we need to first develop our capacity to achieve the funding, at least to show that these are the skills that we can deliver. These are the products or services that we can deliver. Because without showing your expertise, no one is going to fund you. One thing, right? So we need to first develop this momentum. So initially you will have to work voluntarily, but as we go forward, as we get this momentum, we will definitely find several funding coming to us. But it is also about mobilizing the skill from one place to another. It is not difficult, it is not time taking, it is interesting, it is in the benefit of the society, and that is the first cause we must understand. Today, I and Naseer and all are here just because we are motivated to do something for the society, and especially for the people who need that. So I would say let us start the momentum first, movement first. And we just now heard that only by talking this much, your government, your local government has said that they are happy to collaborate with us. What else we want? We have all the support that we need. So that is where we want to go. I want to welcome now, I think Liz is here, and I want to welcome Liz, the CEO of the Farm Carbon Calculator from UK. Thank you, Liz. You are on mute, Liz.
Morning, everybody.
Morning, Liz. Thank you very much for being here. You are very, very, we are very, very grateful, and your presence is appreciated. Thank you very much being here.
Very warm welcome from the audience. I'm just sharing the audience over here.
Oh my word. Okay. Morning, everyone. Hello, everybody. It's cold and dark here in the UK at the moment.
Hi, ma'am. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Naseer.
It's a nice presentation. I have one important question regarding this presentation. Actually, I want to ask that you have already developed such kind of calculator there in UK. So can you suggest us or help us to develop such kind of calculator here in Pakistan or in our province, Sindh, Pakistan? Can you please suggest or help us?
Okay. Yeah, okay. I can indeed. Thank you for the question. So we have already, and I should have mentioned this in my presentation, so my apologies. We have already developed an international version of our calculator for some European countries. Our calculator is already being used on 4 continents, and it's perfectly possible to develop a version for anywhere in the world. What we have to do to make it completely relevant to the region or country that we're working in is to understand, firstly, the emissions factors that are required to be used in the country, also to understand the type of agriculture that needs to be included, and finally to make sure that the inputs within the calculator are relevant to the country and translate the calculator where necessary. So that's what needs to be done, and we've already costed that for some countries and would be very happy to do that for your region. And I would say that in order to do that, we'd want to develop some kind of collaboration with a university and also with some kind of farmer organization in order that we could really help get the calculator being used effectively.
Wonderful. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
So I am Dr. Shabana, Associate Professor, Department of Plant Breeding and Genetics. Actually, I saw your presentation here. I have one question, that this is a combination of different departments and different research here. It is not for only agronomy here. So we need soil scientists for this project. We need livestock department, plant physiologist, microbiologist, and different other departments to handle this large project so that the carbon emanates can be controlled from the air and soil. Not only plants are reliable, we need soil scientists and other scientists so that the carbon emanation can be controlled through various methods also.
Absolutely. And certainly within the Farm Carbon Toolkit, we, as I mentioned, got a team of soil and carbon advisors, and we have developed a protocol for soil testing, soil sampling and analysis, because depending on, I mean, there's 2 aspects to this really. As I think I mentioned during my presentation, farmers are uniquely placed because they've got the ability to remove carbon into soil and into non-crop biomass, alongside obviously needing to reduce their own emissions. But in order to remove carbon from the air and lock it up in soil. They need to understand the practices required. And I would say also potentially where necessary to be rewarded for doing that. And that means there needs to be a reliable mechanism for measuring the carbon removals into soil and non-crop biomass. So you definitely need, and I would say alongside systems like Vera, there is certainly in Europe increasingly an understanding of the protocols and the verifications, the MRV type systems that are going to be required to manage this new market effectively.
Hello, ma'am. I'm Aisha, I'm a PhD scholar. I have one question. You shared the carbon calculator. Now, if any video you can share us the how to calculate the carbon calculator and how to work it.
Okay, I've actually just very recently produced another film, short film, for students in the UK, which goes through literally how to use the calculator. And I'm very happy to share that with you. It goes through it step by step, how to register yourself with an account and then how to start putting your data in. I mean, it is all within a UK context, but a lot of it, I think, it is completely transferable.
Just to add to this particular question, Dr. Nazia is going to have a session where she is going to practically use your toolkit, carbon toolkit calculator, and demonstrate then how does it work. So she has done that. So we have a complete session on that.
Assalamu alaikum. Hi, I am a student of Masters Entomology. How to play the role as an entomologist, how to reduce the gases.
Got you. Okay. Yeah. So as that, do you know what? That's a brilliant question because I don't know what it's like in your countries, but the UK, I think, holds the record for being one of the most nature depleted countries on earth, which is awful. And I think we've achieved that largely through the amount of land we devote to agriculture, as well as the amount of built up land we have. But I think certainly in terms of the decline in insects and birds, we have been very successful through the use of pesticides in reducing the population of insects in the UK. So, and I imagine that will be true across the globe because we have become really successful at producing chemicals to control insects. And I think for entomologists, the challenge is how to support farmers and growers to grow crops with and reduce their reliance massively on pesticides. That's all of them, insecticides, fungicides, and herbicides, and to find ways of being able to harness the ecosystem services that are provided when you have farmland biodiversity properly in place. And I think it's a massive role for entomologists to be able to support farmers to understand that they don't have to use these products. And if they reduce their reliance on these products, they will be amazed to find increasing populations of beneficial insects on their land. And I suppose, sorry, but to properly address your question about reducing emissions, I think for entomologists, the understanding that it's not just about carbon, and sometimes we get accused of having carbon tunnel vision in the UK. And if we're going to effectively deal with the challenge of climate change, we've got to focus on addressing the loss of biodiversity, and entomologists are in a perfect position to do this because certainly in the UK, and I think probably globally, it's the loss of insects that's causing then loss of farmland birds because there's nothing for them to eat.
Hi, madam. I'm Masood Ali, belongs to Department of Entomology, master's student. My question is, I want to ask you that what is the relation of country carbon calculator with the Sustainable Development Goals (SDGs? How country carbon calculator will help us in achieving the SDGs? And
Oh,
it would be helpful if we use them in a subtropical environment of Sindh.
okay. Do you know what? I'm not as familiar as I should be with all the SDGs. I'm fairly certain that through using our calculator for a farm business, it will support them to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions, to improve their resilience as a farm business, and potentially produce healthier food. It will also then, in this kind of, I suppose, a byproduct of improving soil health, is to make the land more resilient to flood and drought. But I can't remember which SDG that relates to. But effectively, it will be those SDGs which are about healthiness of food and healthiness of soil, air, and water. Those will be the SDGs it will deliver against. But it's a very good point you make, because up until now, we haven't sort of we haven't thought about how we deliver against those SDGs, but I think possibly we should be. And then your secondary question about a calculator for subtropical regions. Absolutely. I mean, I think sometimes, I suppose what I would say is this: it's only really necessary to have a different version of a calculator where things are very different. Because if you could, we can, and we sometimes do, produce very bespoke versions of a calculator, but every single version we create will require to be looked after separately. So I think what's important is to think about what's necessary, only because it makes it much more expensive if we've got, say, 20. I mean, if in the UK we have one version, or at least one calculator will cover all of the requirements of the UK. We could have 10 or 20, but then that would increase the upkeep by that number. And by maintenance, I mean, as research changes, we have to amend our emissions factors and take account of new research and also of new guidance as it comes along. And certainly the one that's been creating the most requirement for change in all calculators is the Science-Based Targets Initiative and the flag guidance, which came out initially last year, but I think is now going to be properly brought out this year.
Hello, ma'am. I am very thankful, first of all, to you and Hoopo Canada for this informative session. Question is arising in my mind by your first content of your PPT is getting grip on carbon, right? Ma'am, I am from urban side, and here are already a lot of reasons of carbon emissions like vehicles, industries, and so on. And in this situation, the plantation in our cropping system is most important to eliminate the carbon emissions and reduce the global warming. But since past few years, our landlord and farmers turned their lands into urbanization. And this is one of the most important reason, the global warming. Then my question is that how we can overcome this situation, and what should be the innovations to create the solution of this strategies.
Thank you. And you absolutely. I mean, I didn't try and estimate the proportion of Pakistan, of your country's emissions that are attributed to agriculture. So in the UK, up to the farm gate, it's 10%. And so that means, and for the whole food system right to the final consumer, it's about 25 to 30%. So that means there's at least 70% of total emissions that are not attributed to our food system. And you're absolutely right, urbanization the amount of fossil fuels we use are the biggest pollutant in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. And certainly, I think that the whole globe, we've got to move away from fossil fuels as quickly as we possibly can in order to stop putting carbon dioxide or methane or nitrous oxide into our atmosphere, because the more we put into the atmosphere, the more difficult it's going to be to get it out. And we have to do that in order to avoid the worst impacts of global warming and temperature increase. I mean, I think that I think it behoves all of us to push our governments to act in a way that's not just in short-term interest for the next election, but is thinking about what we need as a globe. And it's really hard. It's really hard. But looking at the weather we're getting, and I'm sure you're in probably a worse place than we are in the UK in terms of extreme weather. But just literally this morning, I was listening to the agricultural program on the radio, and farmers in this country are facing massively increased costs for harvesting crops because we've had 3 months of incessant rain. We've had probably 6 months of rainfall in 3 months, and it's causing massive problems and will increase the cost of food production and reduce food production. And that's happening everywhere. So I don't really have an easy answer for you. And certainly planting trees is a good way to store carbon, but you have to bear in mind that it takes about 10 years before a tree will really start to store much carbon. Because if you think about it, when it's small, it's simply incapable of storing a lot of carbon. So, I don't think we can just rely on planting trees. We've got to stop putting greenhouse gases into our atmosphere.
Various villages में for awareness के लिए आपका training session चाहिए.
Okay.
What is trying to say that how we can use your program to create the awareness at the village level?
Right. Okay. Yes. So, and do you know what? That's probably the most important question, because in the UK, we have many of the businesses that buy from farmers thinking they can just require a farmer to use a calculator, and that is good enough. But then the farmer gets a piece of paper with a number on it, but nothing more. And that's not enough. So in the UK, we've been working on a program now for the last 3 years in a specific area of the UK. So literally like working with the villages that you're talking about. And what we do there is we work directly with the farmers, and it's like they become members of a club, and that club meets up fairly regularly, and they learn together. And what we do is we go out onto the farms of all of those all of those farmers, and we do a baseline carbon footprint with them. So we help them to complete their baseline carbon footprint, so they know where they're starting from, they know what their hotspots are for emissions, and they know their overall balance. And then together we look at what are the kind of things that they can be doing to reduce their emissions and to build farm resilience. And we support them with on-farm trials. So when there's a good idea that everybody agrees is worth looking at further, we'll work with them and with researchers where necessary to carry out trials on farm so they can see it working in action. And I have to say, it's very effective.
Thank you very much, Liz, for your time and your patience to take care of all the questions.
Thank you very much. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.